is go through the homework that was due today, the worksheet that said applying trig facts. A lot of you did do well, but a few of you were off a little bit, so I do want to go through. Let's see how it goes. And we'll start with our key here. First one says express tan 230 degrees as a function of a positive acute angle. So the first thing we're going to do is graph 230 degrees. So 0, 90, 180, this is 270. So 230, let's say, brings me to here. All right, then we have to draw in our right triangle. And the right angle hits the x-axis. So you notice 230 puts me over here on the 180 side. So I'm going to do 230 minus 180. And I get 50 degrees. So that's the angle I'm going to use. Now, it's tangent. In this quadrant, we do AST. Since that's the tangent quadrant and we're using tangent, we leave it positive. So it's positive tan 50 degrees. All right, so that's the first one. Next one says express sine negative 215. All right, so negative 215, so this is 0, negative 90, negative 180. So negative 215 pulls me here. Draw my right triangle. Now again, this is on the 180 side. So I'm going to do 215 minus 180, and I get 35 degrees. Then I do AS. This is the S quadrant. This is sine. That means we leave it positive. So you're going to put positive sine 35 degrees because that little reference angle in there is 35 degrees. All right, 3. In a circle of arc length 10. All right, so we draw my central angle here. The arc length is 10. The central angle is 2/3 radians. All right, so a picture like this, we use theta equals S over R, right? The angle is 2/3. S is the arc over R. So I'm going to cross multiply. So I get 2R equals 30 divided by 2. So I get R equals 15 for that one. Okay, 4. In a circle. Central angle is 2.5. Okay? And has an arc of 10. What is the radius? All right. So 2.5, let's make that into a fraction first, right? So if you don't know how to do it, you do 2.5, right? And then hit math, enter, enter, and you get 5 over 2. Another way of doing it is you do 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. And that's how you get that. So we get the angle is 5 over 2 equals 10 over R. Because we're always using theta equals S over R. And that's how I got that. Cross multiply. 5R equals 20. Divided by 5. R equals 4. All right, number 5. In a circle of radius 8, find the length of the arc. So when we've done X, if the angle is 1.5. So again, theta equals S over R. The angle is 1.5. We don't know the arc. I like to use X instead of S because my S's and 5's look the same. And this time the R is 8. So see how this is a fraction? Make that look like a fraction. Cross multiply, I get X equals, and then we do 1.5 times 8, I get 12. Okay, in a circle with a radius of 10. What is the length of the arc if the angle is 4? All right, again, theta equals S over R. The angle is 4, so I'm going to write it like a fraction. Is the arc over the radius. Cross multiply, I get X equals 40. All right, so that was 1 through 6. Okay, 7. Express sine 240. What is it equivalent to? So I'm going to graph 240. So This is 90, 180, 240 pulls me to about there. I'm going to draw my right triangle, right? This is the 180 line. So I'm going to do 240 minus 180, and I get 60. So this little corner is 60. Then I'm going to do A, S, T. That's the tangent quadrant, and we're doing sine. That means I need negative sine, and we're going to use our new angle, 60. So that would be choice C. Okay, in a circle, whose radius is 5. A central angle intercepts an arc of 10. The arc is 10. What would be the angle? All right, so theta equals S over R. This time we don't know the angle, but we know the arc is 10 and the radius is 5. So that means the angle has to be 2 radians. So if you got 2 for that one, good job. Express as a function of a positive acute angle, cotangent negative 120. All right, this is negative 90. This is negative 180. So negative 120 is going to pull me there. Draw my right angle. All right, now 120, that's 180. So I'm going to do 180 minus 120, that's 60 degrees. So now I'm going to write cotangent 60, and then I'm going to do AST. Now that's the tangent quadrant. That's cotangent. They're related to each other, which means this is going to stay positive. So I'm going to go with cotangent 60, which is B. Okay. In a circle. So draw a circle with a radius of 4. What is the number of radians in the angle? So we don't know the angle. If it intercepts an arc of 24. All right, so again, theta equals S over R. We don't know the angle. The arc is 24. The radius is 4. So that means we get 6 radians. Which expression is equivalent to cosine 120? All right. So 0, 90, 180. So 120 is about there. For the millionth time, I'm drawing my triangle. All right, so this is 180. We have 120. So I'm going to do 180 minus 120. It's another 60 degrees. So that means our reference angle is 60. So I'm going to rewrite this as cosine. Cosine 60. But before I pick an answer, we have to do ASTC. AS. Okay, that's the sine quadrant, and we're doing cosine. So that means it's got to be negative. So negative cos 60, oh my goodness, is none of these. All right, so we got to figure out what's going on if that's not a choice. Well, one of these actually means the same thing. So let's see if we could figure out which is which. Okay, so we got negative cos 60. So let me go with paper here. Let's take a look at this for a second. Choice A says cos 60. So if I graph 60 degrees, it's going to put me here, right? That's not going to be anywhere near what that is, so it can't be choice A. Cos 30, right? Cos 30, right, puts me there. And in this quadrant, everything is positive, right? We need an answer that's going to end up being negative, right? Now, what it's going to end up being is this guy. I'm going to show you a little cheaty way of doing this, and actually my lesson for today is going to explain why this works. A little faster way of doing it. If you typed in, if I go to mode, now when you do trig, you want to make sure it's in degree. But if I type in cos 60, I get 0.5, right? If I type in negative cos 60, I get negative 0.5. So both didn't match. Then if I type in cos 30, I get that doesn't match. So what we got here is negative 0.5. So now if I type in negative sine, and I'm going to actually, today's whole lesson is why these two came out to be the same. So you get to see that in a minute. All right, 12. Express 5 pi over 12 radians in degrees. You should have done 5 pi over 12 times 180 over pi. Those cancel. So I go to my calculator, go to my fraction button, 5 over 12 times 180 makes 75 degrees. So that should have been that one. Next one, sine 150. So 0, 90, 180, 150 pulls me here. Draw my triangle. So I do 180 minus 150 means my reference angle is 30. Then I do AS. This is sine, it's the same, so we leave it positive sine 30. All right, change 300 degrees into radians. All right, so that means I'm going to do 300 over 1. Right now, let's compare. When I gave you radians and I want to change it to degrees, we did 180 over pi, right? This guy, we're going to do pi over 180. It's always the flip over, which makes 300 pi over 180. And then what you have to do is use your calculator to reduce your fraction. Put 300 on top, 180 on the bottom, and I get 5 over 3. So it's 5 pi over 3. All right, going to do the same thing here. 198 over 1 times pi over 180. I get 198 pi over 180. And I'm just going to reduce the numbers. So fraction button, 198 over 180. 11 over 10. 11 pi. 7 pi over 6 radians. Now we got to go the other way, so we're going to do 180 over pi. The pi's cancel. So I'm going to do 7 over 6 times 180. And when you put that in your calculator, you should be getting 210 degrees for 7 pi over 6. And finally, the last two. Cotangent negative 200. 0. Negative 90. Negative 180. So negative 200 will be about there. Draw our triangle. So I'm going to do 200 minus 180. I need to know how far away 200 is from 180. And that's 20 degrees. All right, so it's cotangent. Cotangent 20. And then I'm going to do AS. That's the S quadrant for sine. Sine is not related to cotangent. That means it's got to be negative. So negative cotangent 20, which is right there. And finally, sine 150, which I think was exactly the same one as number 13, which is sine 30. So that's going to be choice B. All right, so that was the homework that was due today on applying trig functions. We had a lot of the same stuff over and over again. So what we're going to do today is talk about special right triangles, but I'm going to shoot that as a whole